Hi everyone, happy Tuesday. I am making this video update for the kindergarten and first grade literacy network workshops from last week that were canceled. I am letting you know that they will not be rescheduled due to makeup days and kind of the time of the year, as well as them meeting again in April. So this will suffice for our time together, and I will provide you with any support you would like to enact any of the protocols. Basically, the purpose of last week's workshops were to do two things, really. Debrief vocabulary instruction, what we know about vocabulary instruction through the essential practices, as well as what we know about read alouds through the essential practices. The second part of that was to reflect on our small groupings, determining why we're putting students where we're putting them, that the instruction we're planning matches the needs of the students, and that we're formatively assessing in a way that tracks progress and moves students forward. So I'm going to run through those protocols with you, share the resources digitally and in print, and then I will be available through email to support in any way that I can. So basically the first two protocols were really to unpack both Essential 2, which is the one surrounding read alouds, and Essential 7, the one that you were doing via the modules related to vocabulary instruction. The idea around Essential 2 was to think about the 4 A's. What assumptions you have about read alouds, what do you agree with and already enact in your practices, what do you argue with or disagree with, and there may not be anything, but the last piece was what do you aspire or want to act on. So thinking about what adjustments you might make while thinking carefully about the read aloud essential. The second piece was unpacking Essential 7, really digging deeply into the essential practices, and when it's talking about thinking about or reading or looking at, we're really talking about looking at the actual essential practice document, which I'll share a copy with you through interoffice mail, but you also already have. So we were going to code the text, but really the aim was going to be to create a checklist of what you should see in vocabulary instruction, and this could be used to think about and analyze your own vocabulary instruction, whether it be from a basal or whether it be some supplementary program. The other opportunity that we were going to be having was to observe some vocabulary instruction. This is some whole brain teaching, or this is a whole brain teaching vocabulary lesson in 3rd grade. Obviously a little bit far beyond kindergarten and first, but a lot of the practices could be applied to kindergarten and first grade. So we were going to watch and analyze using your checklists, but again, you've got the general gist of that by looking at your own vocabulary instruction with the pieces that you pick out of your checklist. You have both the 4A's protocol, the essential practice documents, and the vocabulary checklist kind of document to use if you like. The next step was going to be to jump into our second half, which was the analysis of your small group. You had a document, let me see if I can find it. You had a document like this that you were going to record your already made groups, what need they all showed that determined why they were in a group together, what instructional strategy, curriculum, program, etc. are you using for that group, really focusing on whether or not that matches that need, and then how are you embedding fluency. We'll get back to the formative assessment column in a moment, but this was just to help you kind of put into writing and reflect on what choices you're making in terms of grouping. Back to kind of sharing with each other and working with your colleagues. You would have had the opportunity to share your groups, talk about any insights you've had from reflecting on those groupings, and one adjustment you were thinking about making or one question you're still having about your groups. As we think about kind of matching that instruction to, matching that instruction to the needs of the students, we want to reflect on what goals we have for the student, what instruction we're planning, and what routines are accomplishing that instruction. This is something that you've already seen at quite a few of the meetings, but this is the cognitive model of reading assessment. We know that there are those 3 branches that support a child in achieving reading comprehension. We know that a lot of our kiddos are on this first branch of automatic word recognition. We know these are the parts that contribute to automatic word recognition, and we know that our groups should have elements of these depending on the needs of students. We also know that phonological awareness is that building block, so once a student has mastered the most challenging skill of phonological awareness, which is deleting or substituting sounds in words, we know that they are ready to decode and move forward. As you think about those elements of automatic word recognition, you want to think about making sure that those pieces are in your instruction. I am sharing with you elements from the essential practices for both phonologic awareness and phonics instruction in an effort to support your analysis of your small group. Are you including these elements when you are teaching these pieces in your small group? So in terms of building phonologic awareness, explicit explanation, demonstration, an opportunity to play with sounds, word study, and then applying in writing, interactive writing. In terms of effective phonics instruction, we want to make sure that we see these 6 different elements, that your instruction is verbally precise, that involves those multisensory channels, that it's observed by reading and writing, that a student is getting taught something that they need based on what you see in their reading and what you see in their writing, that there's a scope and sequence, your instruction is systematic, that decodable texts are included so that a student has an opportunity to apply this in reading, and that it's reinforced through coaching, that you are asking students to monitor for meaning, look for letter-sound relationships. The one piece that's not on here but is also applicable would be to apply phonics, known letter-sound correspondences in writing. And then the structure you're using for all of it is the small group instruction, which is essential 3, and we know that these are elements we've already talked about quite a few times. You would have the opportunity to reflect on how your instruction you're planning aligns with essentials 4, 5, and 3, and what adjustments or additions might you consider making to your routines or your small groups to better align with those pieces. The last part was really making sure that you're tracking and monitoring small group data through the use of formative assessments. We know the difference between summative and formative assessment. We've had this piece in our workshops before, but to remind that formative assessment is assessment for learning, which guides you and informs your next step. There's a video that you'll have in this presentation, which is formative assessment in the classroom, some examples of what that might look like. We also have another slide of examples of ways to collect formative assessment data. Again, I'm not going to read through the list, but you have quite a few opportunities to do that. You'll have a document that I'll share in print through interoffice mail. It's called a target method match. It basically says different levels of thinking and what activities or what assessments you might use to check those thoughts. It's quite a good document to have at your disposal. Feel free to look over it if you have questions. Let me know. That document actually came from KLN ISD. We were then going to talk about that 4th column that we skipped on the small groups document, which is formative assessment and next steps. Really thinking about how you might use any of the ideas from the target method match slide or the formative assessment ways, how you are using that to move your group forward and move on to next steps. Oops. Again, having the opportunity to share these share these insights with each other and talk about adjustments to your current practices. I keep saying the last part, but the actual last part of our time together would have been collecting, analyzing, and using formative data. So practicing what it is that we're saying we're going to do in our small groups. So I had a few things for you. One was a video of a student reading in 1st grade a text called What's Up. We would have been taking an informal learning record, focusing primarily on analyzing miscues in terms of M, S, and V. You have some documents in your in-print resources that will support you in looking a little bit deeper at what kind of errors they're making and where to move next. We were then going to, you were going to watch this video and take a running record, and then we were going to be analyzing the miscues together, using the formative assessment tracker, that we created, and talking about what the next steps were. I then had a spelling inventory from a 1st grader that we were going to look at to again analyze and determine next steps. This is an example you can use from a simple spelling test to think about where to move next, letter formation, letter sound correspondences, short vowels versus long vowels, etc. You then had a writing sample from 1st grade with the print below, and we were going to again analyze the data in terms of looking at what skills, what strengths the student was demonstrating and what skills the student needed to move on to next. And then we were going to share basically a rundown of the student profile in terms of their strengths, their instructional needs, and your next steps of instructions, with our session rounding out with a reflection on how your thoughts have changed, how you're moving forward, and what action you're moving forward in your classroom. So I will be sending you all of the resources that I just referenced digitally just in a couple of minutes, and then I will also be sending you the in-print resources via interoffice mail. I will send them to one person from your grade level team. Please share those out with your grade level team. Again, any questions, please feel free to let me know. Otherwise, I will see you all in April. All of the workshops will be at the Tech Center. Yours are already at the Tech Center, so I will see you then. First grade will be coming in the morning, and then kindergarten will be coming in the afternoon. So I look forward to seeing you all. Hopefully I'll be seeing you in and around the buildings. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and stay warm.